Hey guys, what's up? This is What the Tech, and this is Apple's 2020 MacBook Air. Quite possibly the most popular laptop that Apple sells, and actually it probably is the most popular Mac Apple's ever made. It's been refreshed in more ways than one this year, so let's check out the full review. Now starting off the design here, there really is no change between this year's model and last year's. The MacBook Air still maintains that premium, stellar looking, all aluminum unibody design that gives it an incredibly stable chassis with no keyboard flex at all, and no body flex as well, unless you're trying to break it of course. The bezels are exactly the same, not receiving the same treatment that the 16-inch MacBook Pro got with the slimmed down sides, but I personally find that okay to me because the look kind of is iconic and it's not too obtrusive anyways. So long as the bezels are black and paired with that glossy display, it maintains that low profile aesthetic. Now in terms of I/O, it gets pretty sparse here. 2 Thunderbolt 3 USB-C ports on the left and 1 3.5mm headphone jack on the right side. That's pretty surprising from Apple, but someday we're probably going to lose it. And lastly, on the design front, we have a very nicely sized Force Touch trackpad, measuring up pretty close to the height of the keyboard itself. Now speaking about the keyboard, we have a full row of function keys, a regular size escape key, and a separate and also matte black touch ID sensor for quick unlocking and waking up. There also is an inverted T shape for the arrow keys, something a lot more people than I were expecting are applauding. And I was trying to see personally how long I could get into this video without mentioning the most obvious part that people know about, and that's this keyboard here. This is Apple's Magic Keyboard. If you ever got to play around the 16-inch MacBook Pro, it feels exactly the same, using the same scissor switches as opposed to the butterfly switches on the previous iteration of the MacBook Air. It has 1mm of travel when you use the keyboard, and it is a delight to type on. The best way I could describe the typing experience on the 2020 MacBook Air is that I can type confidently again. As a person who uses a 2016 MacBook Pro that uses the butterfly switches, I can say that I can type without hesitation on the Air, nor care about the accuracy because I can feel the tactile feedback and it internally registers that I got to the key. While because of the butterfly switches and how shallow they are to beat that minimal form factor, sometimes I'm not too certain if I got the key right in time for like a shift and capitalize or a command and function. And that's just the inherent advantage of having better tactile feedback on your keyboards. If I had to sum it all down in one word, it's confidence. Now moving away from keyboard, let's talk about the performance and day-to-day use. The model I have is a dual-core i3 base model with 8 gigs of RAM. That's the base model. The reason why I chose this is because it's the most heavily advertised version, and also my philosophy on this kind of stuff is the same how I judge cars, you know. The majority of people are gonna buy the base trim, and it's mostly because out of the whole lot, it's the most affordable and kind of what you see on advertisements. I'm a university student, so my day-to-day habits are kind of referred to as moderate web usage, which consists of YouTube, music, other streaming services, a lot of news, and an insane amount of writing. That last point is especially tenfold now, given that all schools are effectively closed and have transitioned to online classes. University of Zoom, am I right? Speaking about University of Zoom, here's the webcam and microphone quality. It's not that great honestly, especially given the fact that Apple makes some great cameras for its smartphones, but here you go. The MacBook Air handles all of these reasonably well. It starts up snappy and can handle normal loads. I do notice some slight sluggishness from Safari when I have +5 tabs open combined with picture-in-picture video playback. And that's the 8 gigs of RAM showing its limitation right there, being unable to handle a wide breadth of concurrent activities at the same time. Now on Chrome it's even more prevalent, and I chose Chrome because that's one of the largest market share compared outside of Apple's Safari. Using Chrome, things just don't feel snappy, and sometimes you can notice there's a slight delay from things going on. That's because Apple optimizes Safari so much more so for its own hardware products. And people who would use Chrome are using it most likely because it's just a fact of life at this point, or it's the most convenient for them since they have everything tied up with cloud syncing. Now to talk more on the dual-core i3 CPU that Apple's using on this laptop, it can handle normal loads or normal web browsing pretty well. But when I used it personally to do research on this laptop, with YouTube in the background, picture-in-picture, and pages fired up, typing away, it did get noticeably warm. And also when you throw back-to-back Geekbench scores at it, to really ramp up that CPU, eventually after 5 or 6 tests, it did start throttling down. And that's just because this isn't meant to handle sustained loads. And on the matter of handling sustained loads, the MacBook Air was never meant to be a powerful machine. And people who get a MacBook Air aren't looking for that. It's meant for bursts of activity, needing to boost up when applications are thrown in, and then settling down once the user settles down. Now on the last part relating to performance, I wouldn't recommend any serious editing on this machine at all. If anything, I probably would recommend small clips of iMovie edits on this, and only if you have something else to do in the meantime as you wait for things to render. Now when it comes to professional photo editing, I also wouldn't recommend this much either. I'd probably push you more into the MacBook Pro territory. This display is a sRGB display, while the MacBook Pros have P3 wide color gamut, which produces a more accurate picture for photo editing. Now what does that mean for the average person? Not much, honestly. Most people I know either keep the settings stock out of the box or crank up that saturation to whatever looks better in the eye. Now moving on to battery life, Apple rates this officially at 12 to 11 hours depending on your usage. Now for me, I've been getting around 7 to 7.5. Now although that's less than what Apple's given us in official numbers, I would still count this as an all-day machine. You can trust that you can bring this to class and not have to worry about a charger. Now, important thing to note or a variable to add into my battery life reporting to you guys is that I did turn off Bluetooth, which was on by default out of the box here, and I did make sure that my backlit keyboard was pretty much always off because I didn't need to use it at night. Standby time for this machine is pretty wickedly good, honestly. I can charge it up to 100% the night prior, and when I open it up in the morning, it's still at 100. And sometimes it's down by 1%, but I can live with that. Now, where things do change, however, and it's actually really stark change, is if you have to use this machine either outdoors in a patio setting, for example, or in a classroom with high amounts of ambient light. Battery life for me honestly drops between 4.5 to 5 hours, mostly on part of 4.5. And that's because I'm always cranking up the display brightness on this. The display on the MacBook Air is rated around 400 nits of brightness there, and that's not good enough for me, honestly. And maybe for some that's okay, but I'm just reporting what I've experienced. I'm always maxing it out, especially when outdoors, and that's really killing the battery life there. And also, some quirks to report back is that I kind of don't like it how there are 2 USB-C ports on just one side only. I would much prefer it, honestly, if it was 1 USB-C and then 1 USB-C plus headphone jack, because I've been spoiled by being able to charge in any direction. And if that seems a little nitpicky to you there, that's because it is. There are so many good things about this laptop that people genuinely care about that I'd had to grasp the straws there just to throw something into this video to make it seem, hey, he's kind of neutral. Now, who is this for, and is it worth it or not? The MacBook Air is for people who are going to have their first laptop or their first Mac machine, and they're starting school or in the middle of it. And they know they're not going to need a machine that can handle intensive, demanding loads. It's for the person who wants a good, reliable, long-lasting machine that's going to work each and every time they start it up. It also feels good to the touch as well. It still looks really ridiculously great. It will definitely last you throughout all of high school and college and then some. And I guess that's just what the MacBook Air is all about, huh? The best all-rounder laptop. You can easily recommend it if someone you know needs to be protected from downloading a bunch of bloatware, or someone just wants to have a machine that will just work. If you had to upgrade anything on this machine on checkout, I'd probably suggest spending the $100 on the processor upgrade. It's stupid cheap again, just for $100, and it's for the lifetime of the machine. And then after that, if you have more money to spend, a RAM upgrade from 8 to 16. 8 is fine, macOS doesn't need that much memory, but 16 just gives you a little more breathing room. This is truly a return to form for Apple. The MacBook Air, this MacBook Air, is the one we've all been asking for. It's the one that most people can attain, and also it's just something they should have done, honestly, 2-3 years ago. Of course, I'm not gonna hark on that bandwagon because it'd be pretty easy doing that. Let's just be happy that it's here now. And because of that, I feel as if I can confidently recommend, again, that the MacBook Air is the best laptop for most people. And if you've seen other reviews, they're probably gonna go with the exact same thing. It will probably get everything done that most people would need out of it. And I think, what else can you ask from a laptop? This is the MacBook Air we deserve. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Stay indoors if you can, and if you can't, practice social distancing whenever possible. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.